All right, so there's the spot, and in a minute I'm going to bring on the DCCC Jeanne. I've seen polls who say definitively that the majority of the American public says there's too much of a gap between have and have not. Opponents of stuff like that say, hey, you're playing the class warfare card here, and it's going to bite you in the election that you're targeting success. Forget about if you think it's fair or unfair. Politically, from a poll perspective, is this a message that's going to sell?
I think it can sell. I do think it can sell, and I think they are right to put it out there and politically. But I think if you look at the reality of the situation, they are not correct. It is not going to have an impact on the economy in the way that they have promised. So in that respect, it has no impact, and I think the American public are smart enough to see that. So yes, it has a short-term gain, but I think long-term it's not going to impact.
It has an impact on the economy. It doesn't have an impact, let's say, on the deficit that we might want to see. It's not going to immediately turn the economy around, but it does have an impact. It's not the,
Andrew,
it's
a very tiny
impact. It's not the cause of the problem. It's a side effect that goes along with the problem of the problematic economy.
Let me ask you this. Are they exaggerating the amount of impact this would have by all of these advertisements and the way they did? Absolutely.
I didn't hear them suggesting that there was an impact on the economy from this. I heard them saying it was unfair and that people should oppose it on that basis. And I agree with them on that.
It resonates. It resonates, and it can make people actually turn out and vote.
All right. Now, earlier today, guys, I spoke to Jesse Ferguson from the DCCC, their spokesman, and I asked him if the commercial was a cheap shot, among other things. Take a listen. And joining us now to talk about that ad and more is Jesse Ferguson, Communications Director for the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee. Jesse, thanks for a few minutes.
Thanks for having me, Rich.
Well, obviously, with money at a premium right now at this stage of the campaign, I'm taking it you think that the strongest argument for Democrats as a whole, because this spot's playing in 22 other districts other than just Nan Hayworth's, is the whole idea of have-nots, 1% in 99. Do you concern at all here that people are going to say, hey, they're playing the class warfare card, attacking success in America?
To quote Warren Buffett, if this has been about class warfare, then millionaires and billionaires have been winning for far too long. This election is going to be about who you're for. It's going to be about whether Nan Hayworth is for the middle class, is for seniors, is for creating jobs, or whether her first priority is more tax breaks for millionaires, for companies that ship jobs overseas, for big oil companies. And that's the decision she's going to have to make, and voters are going to hold her accountable for it.
What's the one thing the president can do to help candidates you guys are trying to get elected, and what's the last thing they want to hear from the president that might cost them votes in November?
I think the president has made the middle class his priority in this campaign, and the contrast couldn't be more stark. Nan Hayworth and Republicans in Congress are going to give another tax break to millionaires like Mitt Romney instead of protecting Medicare. And that's what you're hearing from the president. That's what you're hearing from candidates running all across the country, because that really speaks to what the middle class is concerned about, whether we're going to make the investments that create jobs and whether we're going to strengthen the middle class, or whether millionaires, billionaires, and outsourcers will continue to be the top priority.
You know, Obamacare, as it's known here, is that something you guys are going to run away from rather than to?
Every time Congresswoman Hayworth talks about repealing health insurance reform, what her constituents find out is that repeals patient protections that keep children on their parents' health insurance, that stop insurance companies from denying people who have pre-existing conditions to get the coverage that they need. Every time she talks about that, what voters are hearing is a win for the insurance companies and a loss for the middle class. And we'll take that fight any day of the week.
What dictates success and failure overall from a macro number for you guys? And I know there's a lot of variables, but how do you decide if this was successful or a failure here this election season come Wednesday morning when you look over the returns?
Sure. First of all, we would need 25 seats to retake control of Congress, and today we can't tell you if that's going to happen or not. We can tell you control of the House is absolutely in play. There are enough vulnerable Republican incumbents like Nan Hayworth all across the country who came to Washington saying that they were going to stand up for the middle class and got here and protected special interests and corporate outsourcers and tax breaks for millionaires. What's going to be a win for us on election night is going to be reversing the Tea Party wave that brought Nan Hayworth and her colleagues to Washington. There are enough seats in play that we could pick up the 25 needed, but it's still too early to know what the outcome is going to be on election day.
Jesse, I appreciate a few minutes. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you, Richard.
All right, so that was from earlier today. We're going to see how this whole thing plays out. But the freshman Republican class, including about 5 to 6 lawmakers from our district, it'll be interesting if they pick up. But Jeanne, real quickly on the numbers here, it'd be next to impossible the Democrats take back the House, right?
Almost impossible that the Democrats take back the House at this point. So, you know, they're gonna fight, yeah, but they'll be lucky to keep the Senate at this point.
Okay, and I think top of the ticket, as Andrew said last week, is probably going to be the determining factor. All right, we are going to jump to a break. When we come back, listen, one thing we can keep our disagreements going on, I have a feeling, is about the Olympics. From the opening ceremonies, if they stunk, as some people at the table thought, or were terrific, to tape delay, whether that really drives you nuts or not. We'll get into all of that as Olympic Talk to the Table comes. Stay with us.